suis certain que celle-ci sera placée sous le signe de succès dans la sérénité. Ladies and gentlemen, before examining item 2 of our agenda, I would like to give several information. First of all, as you know, the committee at its 35th session, decision 12B, paragraph 22, decided that World Heritage Committee meeting should be live streamed over the web. Therefore, I am pleased to announce that the debate of our session will be live streamed through the address which appear on the screen now and which is also available on the website of the 37 Yes. Secondly, please note that interpretation of our plenary session will be available in English, French, as well as in Russian, kindly provided by the Russian authorities. Please also note that thanks to the generosity of Qatar and Spain, interpretation will also be available in Arabic and in Spanish. I therefore invite the Russian and Arabic language speakers to choose in which working language, English or French, they would like to see their intervention being reflected in the summary record of the session. Your choice should be indicated orally at the time of your first intervention. It should also be transmitted in writing to the Secretariat before the end of our working session this morning. Dear colleagues, it is now time for us to consider the participation of observers as presented in document 2 in accordance with Rule 8 of the Rule of Procedure. For your information, this is a bilingual document. I have to ask you if you agree to the presence of this observer throughout the session. No objection? I see no objection. The participation of observer is agreed. May I take it that the participation of observer is agreed? Agreed. I declare agenda item 2 closed. Now we go to item 3. We can now move to the review of the agenda and of the timetable of our session, item 3A and 3B. I would like to invite Mr. Kishore Rao, Director of the World Heritage Center and Secretary of the Convention, to present the agenda and the timetable for this session as contained in document 3A and 3B. Yes. These documents should be read in conjunction with document INF.3A.2, which is the provisional list of documents of our session. Mr. Rao, you have the floor.
Thank you, Excellency. A very good morning to all of you, distinguished delegates, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. As the President announced, we are considering documents 37-3A, which is the provisional agenda, and document 37-3B Rev. These two documents pertain to the provisional agenda for this session as well as the timetable. The provisional agenda is the same as was adopted at the last session, at the 36th session. At the end of that session, you had adopted the provisional agenda and it remains unchanged. The timetable is a new document because we had to adjust some of the timings of the sessions, and you have that, therefore, a revised document. This is document 37-com/3B Rev. Mr. President, the sessions would commence with the Bureau meeting every morning at 8:30 to 9, and that is a Bureau meeting for the members of the Bureau, which is the President, the Rapporteur, and the Vice Chairs. And it is also open to the observer state parties to the convention. So Bureau meeting will be held in the Bureau meeting room every morning from 8:30 to 9. And the morning session, Mr. President, will be from 9 to 12:30, with a lunch break from 12:30 to 2:30, and the afternoon session from 2:30 to 7. During the lunchtime, we have provided space and the opportunity for working groups to meet, as well as side events related to the work of the session to be organized. There is also space and time available for side events to be organized at the end of the session at 7 o'clock. Mr. President, the main business of the session is outlined in the timetable. We have provided for 3 days of time for the State of Conservation review, another 3 days, or rather 2.5 days, for consideration of nominations. And these dates have been kept discrete within the schedule so that states parties who are interested in particular State of Conservation report or nominations could plan their travel and presence accordingly. We will have the adoption of the decisions, the report of the decisions, on Wednesday, 26 June. And at the kind invitation of the President of the session, we will be relocating to Angkor on the 27th of June for the closing ceremony. We have a total number of 51 documents for this session. 36 of these documents are working documents and 15 information documents. And all these documents have been dispatched to you starting from the 3rd of May. There was a second dispatch on 17th May and the last dispatch on 10th of June. You have these documents on the USB key. If there is any committee member who is missing certain documents, please contact the Secretariat. There will be a few documents, 5 documents, which will be generated during the session, which is essentially the list of participants, the letter of factual errors on nominations, which will be distributed latest by tomorrow to you. Then, based on the inscriptions of sites and based on the inscriptions of sites on the danger list or removal of sites from the danger list, there will be a document relating to the update of the World Heritage List and the update of the World Heritage in Danger, which will also be generated during the session. You will establish the provisional agenda for the next session, which is the 38th session, and finally the report of the decisions which you will adopt on the last day of the session. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Rao, for this presentation. Do any member of the committee wish to make observation and suggestion regarding the provisional agenda and timetable? Please. If no comment, you see, I therefore declare that the draft decision 37-3A and 37-3B adopted and agenda item 3 closed. I'd like to go to here. Thank you very much. At this very initial stage, and before closing the examination of this item, please allow me to make some general announcement with the aim to guide our work and our discussion throughout the session. I would like to inform you all, dear colleagues, that due to the number of items on our agenda and the time constraint, I will apply Rule 22 of the Rule of Procedure, which limit the time allowed to each speaker. Time for intervention will be limited to 3 minutes for committee member and 2 minutes for observer. In this regard, please note that a sound system to God's intervention is in place, and I am, as a chairperson, also empowered to interrupt any speaker exceeding the recommended time limit. Concerning the intervention by observers from civil society and NGOs, I would like to request them, if they wish to take the floor on the same topic, to have consultation among them in order to prepare and deliver one single intervention. In order to save time as much as possible, I would appeal to you, dear colleagues, not to repeat what other delegations have said. I would also request that official statement, declaration, be transmitted to the Secretariat in writing as soon as they have been delivered in order to integrate them in the summary record of the session. Furthermore, I would be very grateful if we could start on time every morning at 9 a.m. and every afternoon at 2:30 p.m. sharp. Please note that, as indicated in the timetable just adopted, the meeting of the Bureau will be held every morning as of tomorrow, Tuesday, from 8:30 to 9 a.m. I would also be very grateful if you could hold bilateral discussion outside the main conference room, but not during the debate. I also would like to ask you to switch off your mobile phone or to put them in the silent mode so as not to interrupt the debate. Finally, please note that no specific coffee break or forcing and tea will be available outside the conference room throughout all the day. Last but not least, I also wish to remind you all that all amendments to draft decision have to be submitted beforehand to the rapporteur, Mrs. Jasna Zranovic, in writing, using the blue form and when possible in an electronic version at the following mail address: WH Rapporteur UNESCO.org, which is displayed on the screen, so as to also facilitate and speed up the integration of the text in the relevant draft decision at hand for your consideration. This blue form is available in the room in both French and English, and the email address I just mentioned is written on it. Please ensure that your amendments are provided sufficiently in advance, considering that the Secretariat needs time to have them translated. I would encourage you, whenever possible, to submit the amendment in both languages, English and French, to speed up the process, especially for last-minute amendment. Furthermore, the Secretariat will consult each committee member delegation to get one email address to which the electronic version or the blue form can be sent for easy use. I thank you in advance for your cooperation and understanding in this regard. Mesdames, Messieurs, nous passons maintenant à l'examen du point 4 de notre ordre du jour. Comme vous le savez, c'est Madame Beatrice Hernandez Naguez qui fut la rapporteure de la 36e session du Comité du patrimoine mondial qui s'est tenue du 24 juin au 6 juillet 2012 à Saint-Pétersbourg, en Fédération de Russie. Malheureusement, Madame Hernandez Naguez n'a pas pu être des nôtres aujourd'hui, ce qu'elle regrette. Toutefois, Madame Hernandez nous a transmis une présentation vidéo de son rapport. Nous aurons donc un peu l'impression qu'elle est parmi nous. Donc nous avons la présentation de vidéo.
Please check the video. There is no voice.
Yes.
Technician, please check the video. There's no sound. Oh, c'est un problème.
This is a simple thing. The video is a video. Mr. President, if the video doesn't function, maybe we can say that we will circulate a copy of the report. Yeah? And we can take it.
Among others, the committee was informed of the earthquake in northern Italy that struck the city of Ferrara, dangers of welfare sites in Syria due to the increasing violence in the country, and the damage caused by extremist groups to the sites of Timbuktu and the tomb of Askia in Mali. The committee strongly condemned the acts of destruction of mausoleums in Timbuktu, decided to inscribe the sites of Mali in the list on danger, called the Director General of UNESCO Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the committee, first of all, allow me to present my sincere apologies for not being able to deliver personally this report as it would have been my wish. I thank my colleagues and members of the committee for having entrusted me with the great responsibility of being rapporteur during the 36th session of the committee in St. Petersburg. I also take the opportunity to pay tribute to the chairperson of the 36th session, Ambassador Eleonora Mitrofanova, for her relentless work and ability to conduct the discussions of the committee. I had the honor to assist her in putting together the different proposals presented for decision of the committee. Representatives of 21 state parties members of the World Heritage Committee were present in St. Petersburg: Algeria, Cambodia, Colombia, Estonia, Ethiopia, France, Germany, India, Iraq, Japan, Malaysia, Mali, Mexico, Qatar, Russian Federation, Senegal, Serbia, South Africa, Switzerland, Thailand, and United Arab Emirates. Furthermore, 97 states parties to the World Heritage Convention, which are not members of the committee, were represented as observers. This presence shows the great importance given to the 1972 Convention, one of the most universally ratified legal instruments, which now accounts with 190 states parties. The session in St. Petersburg was special in many ways. For the first time, as per the decision adopted by the General Assembly, the proceedings of the World Heritage Committee were made available through live streaming on the Internet, enabling the stakeholders of the Convention to follow the debates and making the process more transparent. Also, 2 new fora were held during the 36th session: the youth model of the UNESCO World Heritage Committee in Kazan, capital of the Republic of Tatarstan, and the International Forum NGOs in support of the World Heritage Properties. The 36th session witnessed numerous threats to World Heritage sites. Among others, the committee was informed of the earthquake in northern Italy that struck the city of Ferrara, the dangers of World Heritage sites in Syria due to the increasing violence in the country, and the damage caused by extremist groups to the sites of Timbuktu and the Tomb of Askia in Mali. The committee strongly condemned the acts of destruction of mausoleums in Timbuktu, decided to inscribe the sites of Mali in the list on danger, called the Director General of UNESCO to create a special fund to help Mali in the conservation and restoration of its cultural heritage, and launched an appeal to the international community for the protection of this heritage. These tragic events gave a wider dimension of the current and future challenges facing the 1972 Convention, particularly in terms of strengthening protection, conservation, and rehabilitation of the heritage of humanity. In that sense, the committee was informed that the open-ended working group established by the 18th General Assembly on the implementation of the recommendation of the evaluation of the global strategy put particular accent on conservation, which lies at the heart of the Convention. As such, the group also stressed the need to define a global conservation strategy to review the state of conservation processes and to give priority to assistance for conservation and management. The 36th session didn't turn away from the tendency of dealing with a very heavy agenda. To optimize its work and following previous practice, the committee established 2 subsidiary bodies. The first one, devoted to the operational guidelines, called on the World Heritage Center and the advisory bodies to continue the reflection on clarifying the links between the different documents that have been elaborated for the implementation of the Convention. On the other hand, the working group of the budget looked at the severe budgetary situation due to the financial shortfall since 2011 and raised concerns on the sustainability of the World Heritage Fund. The group called upon the committee to seriously reflect on this situation, especially when it takes decisions mandating new tasks to the World Heritage Center or to the advisory bodies. As a result of the financial situation, in St. Petersburg, the committee approved a revised budget for the biennium 2012-2013, which was reduced by $1.4 million, and urged state parties to consider allocating voluntary contributions to the World Heritage Fund. As to the state of the World Heritage List, the committee inscribed 26 properties, 5 natural, 1 mixed, and 20 cultural, of which 4 were from underrepresented countries, Chad, Congo, Palau, and Palestine. With these inscriptions, the list now totals 962 properties located in 157 states parties. 1 extension was added onto a property already inscribed in the list, Tasmanian wilderness in Australia, and 5 properties were added to the World Heritage List in danger: Timbuktu and Tomb of Askia in Mali, Birthplace of Jesus, Church of the Nativity at the pilgrimage route in Bethlehem, Palestine, fortifications on the Caribbean side of Panama, Portobelo, San Lorenzo in Panama, and Liverpool Maritime Mercantile City, United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. The committee also examined 141 state of conservation reports, including 35 properties on the list of World Heritage in danger. In total, the committee adopted 241 decisions. All this work wouldn't have been possible without the professional assistance of the Secretariat, who produced more than 50 documents for the 36th session, including the decisions report, a report that was issued and approved in a time record. A special mention for this accomplishment needs also to be made to the advisory bodies, members of the committee, member states, observers, NGOs, and all those who contributed to the success of the 36th session. I will finish my remarks by congratulating my successor, Mrs. Jasna Snovic of Serbia, who accepted to take the role of rapporteur for the 37th session. I wish you all the best in what I'm sure will be a very constructive and fruitful session. Thank you for your attention. Mr. Chairman, distinguished members.
Repeat. No. Chers collègues, avez-vous des commentaires ou des questions sur le rapport de la dernière session? Donc je n'en vois pas. Je propose donc que le comité prenne note de ce rapport du rapporteur. S'il n'y a pas d'opposition, il en est ainsi décidé. Je déclare le point 4 de l'ordre du jour clos. Je donne la parole au secrétariat qui va... Ah non, je m'excuse. Nous passons... Oui, le point 4, ça a déjà fait. Oui. Nous passons au item numéro 12. La constitution du groupe de travail. Chers collègues, notre prochain point est lié à la révision des orientations. Comme vous vous en souviendrez, en conformité avec la décision 35.13.8, le comité a décidé de créer un groupe de travail ouvert sur les orientations à la 36e session du comité du patrimoine mondial en 2012. Comme vous le savez aussi, un tel groupe de travail sur les orientations avait déjà été établi par le comité à la 34e session. Ce groupe de travail pourrait être établi en tant qu'organe consultatif, conformément à l'article 20 du règlement intérieur, ouvert à la participation de tous les États partis qui les souhaitent, y compris les États non membres du comité. Êtes-vous d'accord pour la constitution de ce groupe? Je vous rappelle que chaque organe consultatif désigne son président. Voilà, parce que nous avons deux groupes. Donc je propose que chaque groupe se consulte et désigne son président. Oui, c'est la Malaisie.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Firstly, allow me to say that Malaysia would like to thank the Kingdom of Cambodia for their very warm and generous hospitality in organizing this meeting. Operational Guidelines is an important document that guides our work and has to be seriously examined to update it. We would like to propose India as chair of the Operational Guidelines. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would join the previous speaker in thanking the Cambodian government for hospitality and organization of this conference. We would like to propose as chairman of the working group Switzerland. Thank you.
South Africa, l'Afrique du Sud, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you, Chairman. I would also like to thank Cambodia for the excellent arrangements for this conference, and I would like to support India as the chairperson for the working group on Operation Guidelines. Thank you.
Qatar, vous avez le floor.
شكرا سيدي الرئيس. نحن أيضا نؤيد أن ترأس الهند هذه المجموعة. شكرا.
J'invite Algérie.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais tout d'abord remercier le Cambodge pour son hospitalité et l'organisation de cette rencontre. L'Algérie soutient la proposition de la présidence accordée à l'Inde, si elle est accordée. Merci.
L'Estonie, d'abord, oui.
Thank you. Estonia would like to support the candidature of Switzerland for this position for the sake of continuity, because Switzerland already was leading this group, and many things that have been already discussed come up again, so it's good to have such an institutional memory. But I have also a question. As I understood from the chairperson, the consultative body itself will elect the chairperson, so that means not only the committee members but everyone who is interested in participating in this group. And my question is, do we really need to discuss this question now? Thank you.
I think it is a very good point. Yeah? It seems difficult to take the decision now, That's why I think maybe tomorrow we can organize the discussion inside the group. Yes. So if we can agree to that, no objection. Yes, so we can go forward. So, merci d'avoir la décision de constituer ce groupe de travail sur la révision des orientations. Cette décision sera bien évidemment reflétée dans la décision finale concernant le point 12 de l'ordre du jour. J'invite maintenant M. Rao à nous donner les informations logistiques quant aux réunions de ce groupe de travail qui vient d'être établi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to recall, this working group will be constituted under Rule 20 of the Rules of Procedure. It will be a consultative body open to committee members as well as states parties not members of the committee. And as the President just announced, the consultative group can elect its own chairperson. When I presented the timetable, I mentioned that the working groups will be meeting at lunchtime between 12:30 and 2:30, and we have provided for 1 hour for each of the working groups to meet. So this working group of the operational guidelines will meet from 12:30 to 1:30 in room Champa, which is on the 3rd floor. Please make a note of that. It's room Champa on the 3rd floor from 12:30 to 1:30 starting tomorrow. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
So we can go forward. Nous passons à item 15. Le rapport sur l'exécution du budget 2012-2013 et préparation du budget 2014-2015, constitution d'un organe consultatif. Chers collègues, notre prochain point est lié aux questions budgétaires. Comme vous vous en souviendrez, le comité a établi par sa décision 35 comme 12B et 12B, paragraphe 13, un organe consultatif permanent sur l'examen du budget biennal du comité. En conformité avec l'article 20 du règlement intérieur, ouvert à la participation de tous les États partis qui les souhaitent, y compris les États non membres du comité. Donc, j'aime demander si nos collègues ont des observations. Je n'en vois pas, il en est donc ainsi décidé. Je vous rappelle que les organes consultatifs désignent leur président. Donc nous adoptons les mêmes principes, oui, pour les deux groupes. J'invite M. Rao de faire un peu de commentaires sur ça, comment on va organiser la réunion.
Thank you, Mr. President. This working group on the budget to discuss item 15 of the agenda will also be a consultative body constituted under Rule 20 of the Rules of Procedure, and it will elect its own chairperson. The group will meet from 1:30 to 2:30 each day starting tomorrow in room Champai. The previous room was Champa and this is room Champai. This is also on the 3rd floor from 1:30 to 2:30 starting tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chers collègues, veuillez comme j'ai le devoir d'accompagner nos VVIP pour une visite de courtoisie à Sa Majesté. Donc je me permets d'inviter Monsieur le Vice-président Colombie de me remplacer. S'il vous plaît, le représentant de Colombie, s'il vous plaît.
To the king. You're going to the king. Yeah. Mr. President, welcome.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Buenos días en español, por supuesto. Entonces, los invito, por supuesto, a que continuemos con el orden del día. Nous passons maintenant à l'examen du point suivant, qui concerne le rapport de centre des décisions du Comité de patrimoine mondial, qui est contenu dans les documents WHC 1337-5A. Pour présenter ces points, je donne la parole au directeur du Centre Patrimoine Mondial, M. Rao. Et M. Rao, vous avez la parole.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. The report of the Secretariat on the activities implemented by it from the end of the last session to this session is contained in document 37-COM5A. It is a non-exhaustive list of activities that have been implemented. You have already heard the results of the last session reported by the rapporteur of the last session, so I will not go into them. Just highlight a few of the major activities that were implemented. We had released the report of the last session, the 36th session, within 1 month, which is the statutory deadline for the report to be released. And this was largely thanks to the efficiency of the rapporteur of the last session. We also organized an information orientation session and an information session for committee members on the 31st of January at headquarters in Paris. A meeting of the open-ended working group to follow up on the recommendation of the UNESCO external auditor on the evaluation of the partnership initiative was organized on the 31st of January, again at headquarters in Paris. And at the request of the committee members, we organized an orientation session on the rules and procedure on the 1st of February at Paris. An information session for the committee members after the dispatch of documents for this session was organized on 6th of May, when the president of the committee was also present. You all are well aware of the inscription of properties that took place at the last session, so I will not go into them. Just to highlight that many more states parties have now submitted tentative lists, and the total number of tentative lists stand at 172 states parties with tentative lists inscribed against their countries. For the current session, of course, we have originally 36 nominations for considerations, but so far we have had 6 nominations that have been withdrawn, and we have therefore 30 nominations for discussion. We have continued our collaborations with various international conventions and organizations throughout the year. We have also collaborated with the biodiversity-related conventions through the forum of the Biodiversity Liaison Group. The center was represented at the last Conference of Parties, which was organized in Hyderabad in October last year. We have collaborated on the Intergovernmental Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services through the science sector of UNESCO, and a very significant cooperation with the CITES Secretariat on monitoring the killing of elephants in Africa, where a large number of World Heritage Sites are impacted by heavy poaching. And there is also a statement by the Secretary General of CITES, which will be read out later on by one of my colleagues. We have also collaborated with the Council of Europe on the European diploma sites and those which are also designated as World Heritage Sites. And a similar collaboration has continued with the Ramsar Convention, because a large number of Ramsar sites and World Heritage designations are overlapping. Within UNESCO, we have established another forum known as the Culture Conventions Liaison Group, and the intention of this group is primarily to enhance coordination and synergies between the various culture conventions that exist within UNESCO, and particularly with the Convention on Intangible Heritage Convention, the Convention on Illicit Traffic of Cultural Property, and the Hague Convention. We have established, in order to enhance efficiencies, a common logistics unit so that the statutory meetings of all these governing bodies could be organized through one unit. We have established various thematic working groups to look at common processes and common procedures relating to periodic reporting, the granting of international assistance. Capacity building programs are another area where we feel that we could join efforts, and we have requested ICROM if it could help in identifying the best modality for delivering that kind of joint capacity building effort. You would recall that the executive board at the last session was seriously concerned about the heavy workload entailed by the meetings of the governing bodies, and in particular on account of the resource constraints, both financial and staffing constraints that have existed. And some of the suggestions and options that were presented for consideration relating to the reduction of the periodicity of the statutory meetings, reduction of the items on the agenda, and also considering whether the sessions could be so organized as to address different aspects of the agenda in alternative years. In terms of the 1972 convention, one of the suggestions made was to consider nominations every alternate year rather than every year, and in the intervening year to consider state of conservation reports. These were just some of the options that were discussed, but obviously it is for the committee to consider, discuss, and debate how best it could enhance efficiencies considering the constraints that fall on the UNESCO budget and program. We have continued to see how the activities of the various conventions could be synergized. You would recall that there was at Chengdu in China this week a meeting of the 10th anniversary of the convention, and a recommendation has been adopted called the Chengdu Recommendation, which also draws attention to the enhanced collaboration between the 72 convention and the 2003 convention. We also collaborate very actively with the UNESCO Biosphere Reserves program, considering that over 75 sites have overlapping designations as Natural World Heritage Sites and Biosphere Reserves. And we are looking how the monitoring mechanisms could benefit both these conventions and programs. Jointly with the science sector, we have also initiated a new program called Renewable Energy Futures for UNESCO sites, and the intention is to promote the use of renewable energy technologies at World Heritage Sites and Biosphere Reserves in order to highlight the need for more energy and efficient technologies being used at these sites and promoting the use of renewable energy technologies. The World Heritage Center also moderated e-discussion on the One UN web platform in preparation for the UN ECOSOC meeting next month, in order to be able to solicit views from a wide range of players on the contribution of culture, both culture and natural heritage, to sustainable development. And as you know, UNESCO has launched a huge advocacy effort in trying to position culture squarely in the post-2015 development agenda. And Mr. President, if you allow, later on during the discussion, the Assistant Director General for Culture to speak more to it on this particular point. Last month, China hosted at Hangzhou the International Conference on Culture, a Key to Development, and the World Heritage Center also played an active role in that particular conference, including on the outcome document which was adopted at that conference. We also worked with UNDP on including a chapter on cultural and natural heritage, primarily on disaster risk preparedness in the post-disaster needs assessment manual, and this manual has been published with the support of the World Bank and the European Union. We also organized a special session on heritage and resilience at the 2013 UN Global Platform on Disaster Risk Reduction, which was held in Geneva in May this year, together with our advisory bodies, ICOMOS and ICROM. A number of international expert meetings, some of them mandated also by the World Heritage Committee, were organized. An international workshop on World Heritage Convention and Indigenous Peoples was hosted by Denmark in September last year, in order to ensure the procedures of the convention are consistent with the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. We had an international conference on earthen architecture in December in Paris. The government of India hosted an international expert meeting on visual impact of development projects on World Heritage sites. And there will be a report presented on that aspect later on in the agenda. There were several other activities. I will not go into them, Mr. President, in great detail, just to highlight that a large number of other activities also had to be coordinated by the Center, which includes a very significant and substantial response to the crisis in Mali, as you have just heard from the rapporteur. We organized a Solidarity Day for Mali at UNESCO headquarters on the 18th of February. An action plan was prepared with all the relevant national and international partners on mobilizing support, financial and technical support for rehabilitating the destroyed cultural heritage in Mali. A couple of missions have been undertaken, as the Director General mentioned yesterday at the opening ceremony. We have just come back from a mission to Mali with a detailed plan of action on rehabilitating and reconstructing. For the first time, the UN Security Council has adopted a resolution on Mali, which contains a specific provision for the peacekeeping operations to work on cultural heritage, together with UNESCO, both for rehabilitating and protecting cultural heritage, as well as for building capacity of the peacekeeping forces on protecting and dealing with cultural heritage. Part 2 of this document, Mr. President, contains a full range of activities covering all the 5 strategic objectives of the Convention, but the main focus is on capacity building and conservation activities. There are activities also reported in other documents which you will be considering during the session, in the documents relating to the follow-up to the periodic reporting exercise, to the reports of the advisory bodies, reports from the Category 2 centers on World Heritage. So there are a large number of activities that have been implemented throughout the year, which are reported in various documents. And not to forget the very large number of activities that were hosted by many countries, over 40 countries, in relation to the celebration of the 40th anniversary of the convention throughout last year, concluding with the magnificent closing ceremony that was hosted by Japan at Kyoto in November last year. Mr. President, this document also contains 3 annexes. The first annex contains a follow-up of the decisions that were adopted at the 36th session. It also includes a list of meetings that have been organized or are proposed to be organized in the coming year, and the authorization that have been granted for the use of the World Heritage emblem. In conclusion, what I would like to say, Mr. President, is that these large number of activities that we implement would not have been possible but for the very generous support that we have received, financial as well as support in terms of hosting many of these meetings and in-kind support from states parties to the convention. But as I mentioned, we need to look at the efficiencies of the activities and the decisions that the committee adopts in terms of requesting for more activities to be implemented, considering the resource constraints, both budgetary constraints as well as constraints in numbers of staff that are now available at the World Heritage Center. There is a freeze on recruitment, so many of the posts continue to be vacant. And kindly keep this in mind as you move forward with adopting decisions in the rest of the session. Thank you, Mr. President.
Merci beaucoup, M. Rao, pour cet très important rapport, très complet, bien sûr. Donc, je vous invite, chers collègues, maintenant à regarder le projet de décision 37 comme 5A, figurant au point 3 du document qui vient de nous être présenté. Et je vous invite à vous présenter des commentaires si vous les savez, s'il vous plaît. Je ne vois pas de commentaires ou de questions. Donc, si on est d'accord avec le document ainsi que le projet de décision, je pense qu'on peut passer à l'adoption de ce document. Si on est tous d'accord, on adopte la décision WBHC 1337 comme 5A. Donc, elle est adoptée. Donc maintenant, nous passons au point 5B, qui est le rapport des organisations consultatives. Ces rapports sont contenus dans les documents WHC 1337 comme 5B. Et j'invite donc maintenant le représentant de l'UICN à prendre la parole sur ce sujet, suivi du représentant de l'ICOMOS et enfin de celui de l'ICROM. Donc, le représentant de l'UICN, vous avez la parole.
Start. Thank you, Chair. This is the first intervention IUCN is making at the World Heritage Committee. As the Regional Director for IUCN in Asia, I would like to thank Cambodia for your warm welcome and excellent organization and congratulate you for bringing the committee to our region. IUCN's report under this item is before the World Heritage Committee. Mr. Badman, who is to my left, and the head of our delegation, will be pleased to take any questions the committee may have on the report. The report primarily covers our work as an advisory body, a role we have undertaken since the inception of the Convention in 1972. I would like to draw specific attention to paragraph 40, which highlights the increased priority that IUCN is according to World Heritage. IUCN is also pleased to note that a past chairperson of the World Heritage Committee, Mr. Zhang Zhisheng, has been elected to be the president of IUCN. IUCN increasingly sees its central contribution to this convention to be that of ensuring that it remains credible and relevant to the new challenges facing conservation in the 21st century. Credibility, in our view, will rely on upholding the standards of the convention as a beacon of excellence in how to conserve outstanding natural and cultural places. That is why we work so diligently in support of the committee's aspirations to retain the highest standards of quality within World Heritage sites. If these sites do not stand for the best, then nowhere does. But relevance will not be won simply by high standards of protection and maintaining rigor in listing. Relevance of World Heritage will only be secured if we demonstrate how the protection and conservation of World Heritage sites deliver solutions to the complex development needs of modern society while retaining our precious shared heritage. That is why at IUCN we are strongly committed to the supporting upstream processes for nominations and why we are undertaking new work to deliver more proactive monitoring of sites. Together with the Ministry of Environment, Japan, we are now planning for the Asia Parks Congress, which will be held in Sendai in November this year. Planning is also well advanced for the World Parks Congress to be held in Australia in November 2014 on the theme of inspiring solutions. World Heritage sites should be the centerpiece that leads to those inspiring solutions. As an IUCN Regional Director, I would like to close by affirming the importance of the effort to ensure that benefits of World Heritage reach all regions of the globe. Our regional offices have a key role to play to facilitate advice and provide support. In Asia, for example, our 11 country offices work with IUCN member organizations and commissions to implement a wide range of World Heritage-related projects, such as support to tentative lists, on-ground management, and the promotion of appropriate development in the wider land and seascapes. IUCN Asia is also actively involved in helping to develop the IUCN Green List of protected areas, a powerful new tool to promote management excellence, including World Heritage sites. We will be showcasing many aspects of our work during a special event on IUCN's work in Asia to be held at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday the 18th in the Advisory Bodies Pavilion in room 4 on the 4th floor, and we hope you can join us there to learn more about IUCN's regional work to make World Heritage the success we all strive for. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Madame. Je vous invite, chers collègues, à vous présenter vos commentaires sur les rapports des représentants de l'UICN, si vous le savez, s'il vous plaît. Donc, je ne vois pas. Et je passe la parole maintenant au représentant de l'ICOMOS. Monsieur, vous avez la parole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. ICOMOS wants to express our appreciation to the government of Cambodia for hosting and organizing the 37th meeting of the World Heritage Committee and for the warm hospitality with which we have been received. As we have done since the genesis of the convention, ICOMOS has once more endeavored to use the totality of our resources to provide the committee with the best and most professional advice regarding new nominations to be considered by the committee, as well as all other issues concerning the conservation and protection of heritage properties in the World Heritage List. A full description of our work for this year can be found in the report that you have received as part of the documents. I want to take this opportunity also to thank the staff and advisors of ICOMOS and the hundreds of members of ICOMOS throughout the world who contributed this year to our World Heritage obligations. This is a composite effort on our part, not that of any of the advisors specifically or any individual. We remind the committee, as we do every year, that ICOMOS uses professional expertise from all the pertinent disciplines and from cultural regions that are relevant to each property. We're happy to provide this assistance, and ICOMOS remains committed to the aims of the convention, even though it signifies a considerable drain on our financial resources. Over this past year, we have also had the privilege to participate in a number of key activities in various parts of the world that were focused on finding ways for the advisory bodies to work more closely with states parties in implementing the convention in their own countries and within their regions. ICOMOS sees this trend as an important first step in clearing the air of the many misunderstandings and disagreements that have plagued the convention over the past 3 years, and about which our Director General, Mrs. Bokova, has expressed her serious concern. Examples of this cooperation include consultations with state parties regarding pilot projects within the upstream process adopted by the World Heritage Committee that have been underway in order to ensure that potential nominations are more robust. ICOMOS has also had early consultations with some states parties regarding development projects at World Heritage properties to ensure that these would not impact the outstanding universal value. With the support of Switzerland, whom we thank, we have been working to strengthen our professional expert networks, and with that of Bahrain, whom we also thank, ICOMOS is resuming its program of thematic studies. Ironically, as the demands for more work on the part of the advisory bodies continues to increase, the funds necessary to sustain adequate responses continue to dwindle. And this is why we're so appreciative of the generosity of states parties like Switzerland and Bahrain, as well as Japan, whom we thank for their ongoing exploration on the deeper meanings of the Nara Declaration, of the Nara document. I will simply finish by reiterating ICOMOS' commitment to work in open cooperation with states parties, as I expressed in the Looking Forward meeting in Paris last year. ICOMOS and IUCN have met and have been meeting, and we believe that new mechanisms are needed to better operationalize upstream approaches and build capacity. We're interested to explore these possibilities further during this session so that we may face together the many challenges of inscribing and protecting properties in the World Heritage List. I very well know, that over the next few days, the committee will not always agree with our advice. This is an expected and normal aspect of the professional process that we welcome, as long as it is done with mutual respect and professionalism. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur. Et donc, je passe maintenant aux membres du comité pour les offrir la parole si vous avez des commentaires sur le rapport du représentant de l'ICOMOS, s'il vous plaît. Si vous avez des commentaires. Oui, Mali, vous avez la parole.
Oui, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président, je remercie beaucoup les organes consultatifs pour ces brillantes présentations. Et dans son propos, Monsieur le représentant de l'ICOMOS disait qu'ils avaient approché les États partis. Est-ce qu'on peut avoir une idée précise? Est-ce qu'il s'agit des États partis qui ont des nominations en cours ou bien des États partis membres du comité? Est-ce qu'on peut avoir des précisions par rapport à ça, aux États partis qui ont été abordés? Merci.
I'm sorry, if you could repeat the question, I couldn't quite get it.
I can say it in English if you want.
Okay.
You said that, absolument.
Vous pouvez parler en français, s'il vous plaît.
You've been working with some state parties.
Yes.
Okay? And I would like to know if those state parties are the ones who are members of the World Heritage Committee or other state parties who are having goods to be nominated. Thank you.
The states parties that we're working with are part of the ones that were selected as part of a broad process of analysis. I would have to consult with our advisors and our staff as to exactly which those state parties are where we have been working upstream. Could I ask our staff over at our desk to please identify what those states parties are?
Thank you to the representative of ICOMOS, and I would just like to mention that I prefer first to listen to the comments of the committee members, and after that I will give the floor again to ICOMOS representative. So please, if there are some other member states, I see Mexico, please, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Es nuestra primera intervención y queremos agradecer también al gobierno de Camboya su generosidad para recibirnos en esta sesión del comité acá. Nosotros brevemente queremos comentar que queremos agradecer el trabajo y la colaboración que hemos estado emprendiendo con ICOMOS, principalmente en temas como el estado de conservación de los sitios inscritos en la lista y en la declaración, sobre todo este año que ha transcurrido en las declaraciones retrospectivas de valor universal excepcional. Queremos reiterar al presidente de ICOMOS la invitación para contar con una mayor participación por parte de los expertos del organismo y de los otros organismos también en las reuniones internacionales que nuestro país y en general la región de América Latina y el Caribe llevan a cabo anualmente. Queremos reconocer su participación de los 13 organismos asesores en las discusiones de los Estados partes en la reunión que sostuvimos en octubre en París, convocada por la directora general de la UNESCO, en la que se prosiguió, en palabras de ustedes, con un diálogo continuo y fructífero. Y finalmente queremos pedir nuevamente que los organismos asesores tengan una mayor presencia en la región América Latina y el Caribe, contando para ello de manera inmediata con los expertos que ya han sido formados en diversas reuniones, como la patrocinada, y siempre lo repetimos y agradecemos, la patrocinada en 2010 por UICN y el Gobierno de Suiza en San José, Costa Rica, y la de ICROM de 2011 en Zacatecas, México. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, el representante de México. Do we have another comments on this report? If not, I might invite the representative of the ICROM to present his report. Please, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. As this is the first time that ICROM is taking the floor, I would like to express my delegation's warmest thanks to the government of Cambodia for the warm welcome and hospitality that we have received for our entire delegation. ICROM has a long-standing collaboration with the Kingdom of Cambodia, and we look forward to continuing and strengthening that collaboration in the future. Mr. Chairman, ICROM is pleased to have the opportunity to say a few words about our own activities in the past year in favor of the World Heritage Convention. As an advisory body to the World Heritage Committee, ICROM is involved in many convention activities. As you will see in Document 5B, ICROM participates in periodic reporting and reactive monitoring process, the evaluation of international assistance, and of course the continued scientific and technical development of the convention. I'm particularly pleased to reiterate ICROM's commitment to its role as a focal point for capacity building activities within the convention. With the approval of the World Heritage Capacity Building Strategy by the committee in 2011, work has begun on the development and implementation of programs at the international and regional levels. You will hear a report on the implementation of this under item 6 in our agenda today. But I would like to take this opportunity to single out the government of Switzerland for its support of capacity building efforts to date. And I would like to ask other interested states parties to consider contributing to capacity building efforts being undertaken both at the regional level and also at the international level. I would also call attention of the committee to a program within ICROM's own program budget called Improving Conservation and Management Practices through the World Heritage Convention. This is the first time that the General Assembly of ICROM has approved a specific program for capacity building for World Heritage within our regular program and budget. But also other ICROM programs are of relevance to better implementation of the World Heritage Convention. For example, our programs on disaster and risk management is of high relevance to conservation of World Heritage properties around the world, which have suffered from natural and man-made disasters. As an example, ICROM hosted the head of the cultural mission of Timbuktu at our last course in September on first aid to cultural heritage in times of conflict. And we partnered with ICOMOS on a short e-learning course for Syrian cultural heritage professionals on the topic of protection of Syria's cultural heritage in times of armed conflict. That e-learning activity took place in January of this past year. ICROM's programs on science and conservation, as well as living heritage, could be seen as being of a strong relevance or importance for World Heritage properties. Like IUCN and ICOMOS, ICROM is committed to ensuring the highest level of advice to the World Heritage Committee to ensure that to ensure the credibility of the World Heritage Convention over time. Mr. Chairman, to conclude, ICROM looks forward to continuing its collaboration with the other advisory bodies, with the World Heritage Center, with states parties, with Category 2 centers in all regions of the world, and other institutions on increasing the capacity at all levels for the better management of World Heritage properties. Thank you very much for giving me this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you for your report. Now I might invite again the members of the committee to present its comments on this item, please. I see now. Senegal, please, you have the floor, sir.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. C'est la première fois que le Sénégal prend la parole. Nous en profitons pour remercier le Cambodge pour cette organisation exceptionnelle et toutes les facilités mises à notre disposition. Nous remercions aussi le Centre du patrimoine mondial pour la qualité des documents ainsi que bien sûr les organisations consultatives. Le Sénégal voudrait attirer l'attention des organisations consultatives et de tous les membres du comité sur un élément extrêmement important qui va suivre le comité et la convention. Nous parlons régulièrement des valeurs universelles exceptionnelles, c'est la base, c'est le cœur de la convention. Et depuis quelques années, nous avons travaillé sur les valeurs universelles au plan rétrospectif. C'est aussi important de savoir comment ces valeurs-là ont évolué. Jusque-là, nous regardons dans le rétroviseur. Le Sénégal pense qu'il est maintenant temps que nous puissions regarder devant, notamment dans la préparation des dossiers de nomination et dans la constitution des plans de gestion. L'année dernière, nous avons eu la possibilité et la chance d'inscrire un paysage minier français, industriel. Beaucoup de pays sont aujourd'hui des pays en développement qui vont être aménagés. Et ces aménagements entreront nécessairement en conflit dans de nombreux cas avec des sites protégés, avec des sites du patrimoine mondial. Il est temps, nous semble-t-il, de commencer à réfléchir sur les notions de valeurs universelles prospectives afin de ne pas avoir des clashs à force de regarder seulement dans le rétroviseur. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le représentant du Sénégal. Y a-t-il des autres commentaires? Le Mali, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président, je voudrais réitérer mes remerciements au gouvernement cambodgien pour l'organisation de cette séance, cette session. Mais je voudrais aussi remercier le représentant de l'ICROM pour cette brillante présentation. Au passage, j'aimerais insister sur deux points techniques fondamentaux. Il s'agit des sessions d'orientation qui sont utiles pour le comité, nous l'avons toujours dit, et qui étaient organisées par l'ICROM. On souhaite que ces sessions continuent. Ça rentre dans le cadre du renforcement des capacités des membres du comité. Le deuxième élément important, ce sont les manuels, la publication des manuels de référence. Monsieur le Président, il y a des domaines pour lesquels les compétences, les spécialités sont vraiment limitées. Je dirais que c'est des domaines neufs, des domaines nouveaux, pour lesquels nous n'avons pas une documentation assez précise. Et en la matière, l'ICROM a commencé à publier des manuels de référence. Je songe par exemple à la gestion des risques. Je songe par exemple à la gestion du patrimoine en période de conflit. Ce sont là vraiment des manuels qui, en les produisant, peuvent beaucoup aider les gestionnaires de sites eux-mêmes. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le représentant du Mali. Je vois les Émirats arabes unis. Monsieur, vous avez la parole.
شكرا السيد الرئيس. وبالبدء نود أن وفد دولة الإمارات يتقدم بالشكر إلى الحكومة الكمبودية والجهات المختصة على كرم الضيافة وعلى حسن التنظيم، ونحن سعداء أن نكون معهم هنا في هذا البلد الغني بثقافته وتراثه الحضاري. الشكر موصول لمركز التراث العالمي على تقريره الوافي وعلى جودة الوثائق وعلى المساهمة في تنظيم هذا اللقاء. وبما أننا بصدد مناقشة تقارير الهيئات الاستشارية، أيضا أنتهز هذه الفرصة لأن نعبر عن تقدير دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة لجهود هذه الهيئات، وهذا الجهد يهمنا كثيرا. ولقد عبرنا عن هذا الموقف في اجتماع الدورة السابقة عن أهمية تطوير علاقة التعاون بين الدول الأعضاء والهيئات الاستشارية، وأن تنتقل هذه العلاقة من علاقة التعاون ذي الطابع الامتحاني إلى الشراكة. يعني المسألة سادها بعض الالتباس في الماضي بأن الهيئات الاستشارية مهمتها مقتصرة على قبول إدراج أو عدم الإدراج أو إلى حد معين. نحن ندرك أن من الدورة الماضية إلى هذه الدورة ربما طرأ بعض التحسن في هذه العلاقة، وأصبحت علاقة عمل مشترك. نأمل أن تتطور هذه المسألة في المستقبل. أريد أن أشيد بما أشار إليه وفد السنغال، لأن هذا الأمر يهمنا في الحفاظ على تراثنا الثقافي. وشكرا.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le représentant des Émirats arabes unis. Y a-t-il des autres commentaires sur ces points? Je ne vois pas. Donc, chers collègues, nous devons maintenant adopter ou passer à l'adoption du projet de décision 37,5B qui est contenu au point 4 du document que vous avez devant vous. Et avez-vous des commentaires complémentaires ou additionnels avant que nous passions à l'adoption de ce document? Donc, je ne vois pas. Et donc, on a Algérie, vous avez la parole aussi.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais tout d'abord remercier et féliciter les organes consultatifs pour ces excellents rapports. Donc, ils sont à féliciter, à encourager. Je voudrais lecture donc de ce point 4. Je pense qu'il y a une certaine ambiguïté dans la lecture de cet article, puisqu'on peut accueillir favorablement, si vous voulez, les aspects positifs, c'est-à-dire l'harmonisation, donc les progrès réalisés, mais on ne peut pas accueillir favorablement des lacunes qui ont été identifiées. Donc je propose que ces deux expressions soient séparées. On pourrait, par exemple, dire donc accueillir favorablement l'harmonisation et les commentaires sur le progrès réalisé, et couper la phrase et dire prendre note ou prendre acte des lacunes identifiées pour la mise en œuvre de la Convention. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le représentant de l'Algérie. Donc, je vous prie, les collègues de secrétariat, de refléter sur l'écran la proposition du représentant de l'Algérie. Très bien. Donc, je passe maintenant la parole au rapporteur pour nous lire les documents tels qui a été, les amendements qui ont été présentés pour l'Algérie, s'il vous plaît, madame.
Je vous lis le paragraphe 4. Accueille favorablement l'harmonisation des rapports des organisations consultatives et les commentaires sur les progrès réalisés et prend note des lacunes identifiées pour la mise en œuvre de la Convention.
Merci beaucoup, madame la rapporteure. On est tous d'accord avec cet amendement. Je vois qu'il n'y a pas de commentaire, donc si nous sommes d'accord, on peut adopter l'amendement de l'Algérie et passer maintenant à l'adoption de la France. Madame, vous avez la parole.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Puisque c'est la première fois que la France s'exprime lors de cette session du comité, je voudrais remercier très sincèrement les autorités cambodgiennes pour leur accueil et la façon dont elles ont accueilli l'ensemble des participants à cette grande conférence. Je voulais juste apporter une petite précision technique et linguistique. Remercier l'Algérie pour le soin qu'elle a mis de préciser et peut-être compléter en proposant, identifier, non pas pour, mais dans la mise en œuvre de la Convention. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Très bien, merci beaucoup, Madame, tout à fait. Ce sont des apportations très importantes, très précises. Donc, les collègues du secrétariat, si vous pouvez prendre note. Très bien. Y a-t-il des autres commentaires? Donc, je ne vois pas. Donc, on passe maintenant, chers collègues, à l'adoption du document, la décision. Donc, le projet de décision 37 comme 5B, il est donc adopté tel qu'amendé. Merci beaucoup. Donc, the time has come now to examine our next agenda item, item 5.6, which corresponds to the summary and follow-up on the Director General's meeting on the World Heritage Convention, Thinking Ahead, which has been organized in UNESCO's headquarters 2 and 3 October last year. May now invite you to consider document WHC 1337-5C as referred of our debate. And on this item, I will also like to invite Mr. Rao, the director of the World Heritage Center, to briefly present this document. Mr. Rao, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. A number of speakers have already referred to this meeting that was organized last October at the initiative of the Director General, and this was done both within the framework of the 40th anniversary of the convention as well as on the request of many states parties in order to be able to have a free and frank exchange on many of the procedures and processes of the convention affecting all three pillars of the convention, the states parties, advisory bodies, and the secretariat. So this meeting was held over a 2-day period on the 2nd and 3rd of October last year. The 2nd October was devoted to a meeting of the Director General with the heads of each of the three advisory bodies, and the summary of that meeting was presented next day to the plenary when all the states parties were present, and there was a very good discussion on various aspects of the processes concerning the convention. Mr. President, an annex to this document is the summary of the discussions which took place on the 2nd and 3rd of October. The main themes which the discussions focused on were on the issue of tentative lists, nominations, conservation of properties, capacity building, roles and responsibilities of the advisory bodies and the Secretariat, as well as the roles and responsibilities of the governing bodies, and lastly, on the resource constraints and challenges facing effective and efficient implementation of the Convention. Part 2 of this document, Mr. President, contains a very brief summary of the follow-up actions that we have taken in order to be able to report to the committee the actions that we have implemented in line with the agreements that were reached at the meeting on the 2nd and 3rd of October. We have basically drawn attention to the various initiatives taken to support states parties in revising, reviewing, and establishing their tentative lists, more engagement of the advisory bodies in that process, as well as in the process of mentoring state parties in the development of credible nominations, picking up on the example of the very good work that was done throughout the African subcontinent in the last 3 years. We have extended that experience to the Caribbean and small island developing states, both in the Pacific and in the Caribbean region. This was drawn attention to by the chairperson of the executive board in her address to the opening ceremony last evening. We have extended the upstream project approach to more sites than are contained in the pilot projects. So the upstream support is being provided in terms of advisory services by the advisory bodies to various other states parties. Significantly, the countries concerned with the Silk Route nominations, as well as the Kapak Nyan nomination, which will be coming up for consideration next year. We have also provided for enhanced cooperation, not only through the biannual meetings that are held between the Secretariat and the advisory bodies, but more open consultation and discussions involving the states parties as well in various aspects of implementing the Convention. We have enhanced our efforts to build capacity of states parties in conservation issues. A number of capacity building activities that were reported to you by ICROM, you have already taken note of, and all these have been possible with the support of the committee members and states parties who are supporting these initiatives in different regions of the world. The roles and responsibilities of the advisory bodies and the Secretariat is something that has been commented upon a number of times, and we are constantly looking at improving efficiencies in that process, particularly to avoid duplication, and you would see that reflected in different documents during the session, including in documents relating to the state of conservation monitoring that you will be considering later on. Mr. President, I would not go into details of many of the other activities that have been implemented or are proposed to be implemented. Suffice to say that we will be continuing to follow up on the agreements reached in that landmark meeting through the implementation plan that has been developed on the follow-up to the recommendation of the UNESCO external auditor, both for the implementation of the recommendations on the global strategy as well as on the implementation of the recommendations on the partnership initiative. And as the General Assembly will be reviewing both these implementation plans later in the year, this issue is going to come up before all the states parties to the Convention. The General Assembly will also consider the implementation plan on the Global Strategic Action Plan 2012-2022, which will also be presented to the General Assembly. So this matter will be discussed even in the General Assembly of States Parties later this year. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rao. Dear colleagues, now I would like to open the floor for comments on these subjects And before doing so, I would like to remind you that we also have we are also invited to adopt the draft decision included in document WHC 1337.5C.3. So now the floor is yours. India. Mr. Ambassador, you have the floor, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd first like to thank and congratulate the government of Cambodia for the wonderful arrangements, the hospitality, and the great interest that they have shown in making this a success. I'd like to thank you too, Mr. Chair, for the wise manner in which you've conducted the proceedings while you have been there. Let me turn to the item. This is perhaps one of the most fundamental. Over the past year, there has been a great deal of expressed dissatisfaction at the lack of transparency, of dialogue, of the need to encourage these processes, to make them more transparent. I think we have, this document does the DG a small disservice because it was her initiative to take the October meeting forward. But we also met later. We met in January, something that doesn't find mention here and should. There were important expressions of what should be done and can be done. And to us, these are extremely important. So to come to the specifics, firstly, I think we'd like to know how these processes very specifically are going to be taken forward. We have some suggestions. In September 2013, as usual, the advisory bodies will meet. This is a possible platform where member states could participate. I see the logistical limitations, but I'd love to hear what the advisory bodies would have to say. Information meetings tend to be repetitive, tend to be to contain material and content that could easily be disseminated. The January meeting was an information meeting, but transformed itself to an issues meeting. These are opportunities. The director of the World Heritage Centers has referred to the growing demand for an independent professional role for the World Heritage Center. Not just the issue of duplication, but where the World Heritage Center assumes a position which is independent of the advisory bodies and is known to the member states. I'm delighted by the fact that ICOMOS and IUCN have, in recent months, opened a dialogue with member states on nominations, on inscriptions, on state of conservation. I think it's a wonderful beginning. I think you need to institutionalize this and take it forward. It is possible to confuse these issues with acronyms, with the past, with 35COM whatever and 73COM whatever, but I think you need a very clear concept and paper as to how you will promote dialogue, transparency. This is UNESCO's signature convention. This is the face of UNESCO. You cannot afford to have it mired in process and procedure. I would suggest, Chair, my colleague from the UAE spoke before this. I think we should spend time on this. I think the World Heritage Center should seriously think about how they can lend credence to these very important processes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, and may now invite further comments on this issue. Of course, Mr. Ambassador, you have mentioned too many interesting topics, and before other comments, if I don't see, I might invite Mr. Rao to present additional comments. Estonia, before Mr. Rao invite Estonia, you please, sir, take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Estonia would also like to start by thanking the government of Cambodia for this wonderful welcome that we have received. And we would like to make some short comments concerning the item. First, Estonia would like to highlight one aspect what was discussed in length during the meeting, and that is the issue of tentative list and the issue of determining the potential of outstanding universal value before the process begins. The process that we know is time-consuming and costly for the state parties. And that is why we believe it's really in the interest of everyone concerned that the potential of OUV is established before the process begins. And everyone at the meeting welcomed very much bigger involvement of advisory bodies in this process, which we also share. But we also need to be aware that the tentative list is a country-driven process, and the advisory bodies need to be invited by the state party to participate in this. And given the constraints that we have, the budgetary constraints and also the human resources constraints, it's important for the state parties to be active and to find the possibilities and means for inviting advisory bodies in this work. Another issue that we also believe is important that was raised during the meeting was the extremely tight schedule that we have, and that concerns both nominations and state of conservation reports. And as for nominations, we believe a very useful proposal has been put forward in the operational guidelines working document, that is to make use of 30th of September deadline that used to be voluntary, but now it is proposed to be mandatory for the new nominations. We believe it's very useful. And as for state of conservation reports, the 1st of February deadline is really very short, given that the committee meeting comes up in June. And as we have now established that the normal, let's say, interval of SOC reports is 2 years, maybe the committee could also discuss the option that if the next report is invited in 2 years, maybe we can bring forward the 1st of February deadline, if we find an opportunity for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, representative of Estonia. Do we have another comments on this item? México. Por favor, tiene la palabra.
Gracias, presidente. Retomando un poco el tema que mencionaban precedentemente nuestros colegas de Estonia, en cuanto a las listas indicativas, seré muy breve, nada más pedir a los órganos consultivos y principalmente a los dos más involucrados en los temas de evaluación de nuevas candidaturas, un trabajo coordinado en virtud de los costos que esto implica y de no poder llevar a los sitios a expertos internacionales. Nosotros pediríamos, por ejemplo, en el caso de ICOMOS, un trabajo más coordinado con los comités nacionales, pero bajo una condición muy específica, que esos comités nacionales, que en el tema América Latina y el Caribe son terriblemente irregulares los trabajos de los comités, que estos comités sean más profesionales, más objetivos y desde luego más transparentes, como mencionaba el embajador de la India. Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Do we have another comments on this?
Okay. So one there and then first. Okay.
With your permission, may now I pass the floor to some observers to present their remarks. So I recognize Brazil. Brazil, you have the floor now, please. Microphone not working. Can you please change just the table to check if...
Come to it.
Please, I invite our colleagues of the organization to check this technician problem, please. And well, now I see you have, your microphone is working, so please, sir, present your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I have to thank the delegation of Estonia for the good cooperation to allow us to make this intervention. At the outset, allow us to thank the Cambodian authorities for the warm hospitality that they have provided, and congratulate you for assuming the work of this session, Mr. Chairman. Brazil would like to follow up actually what Estonia had said on tentative lists. We believe that tentative lists is the best opportunity for mainstreaming the work that the state will eventually provide when they write a nomination. We believe that what ICOMOS had presented during the last October meeting as a paper provides a good basis for discussion in terms of revisions of the processes for tentative lists. We cannot, we should favor listing properties that do have the capacity for demonstrating that they're OUV. And in that sense, we understand that perhaps additional revisions to the operational guidelines should be necessary, might be necessary. And we think that these issues should also be brought to the attention of the consultative body on the operational guidelines. So this is what we would have to say at this stage. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Now I invite, please, the WWF to take the floor on this item, please.
Switch it on. No, switch it on. Yes.
Switch it on, please.
It's okay.
Hello, you can.
Okay,
right.
it's working.
Oh.
Please
okay,
proceed, madam.
Thank you very much for allowing me to address the committee, and we look forward to good and fruitful deliberations here. We're in contact with many delegations in many countries doing much of the same work as UNESCO, the World Heritage Committee members and IUCN, and that is to protect the outstanding values of the world's most special places. And we call on the committee to stay resolute in their work to do that. We've reflected on this report, and we would like to add some suggestions to that. For us, it would help our work considerably if the committee were to provide better guidance on the social and economic benefits of World Heritage areas. It's very hard to sell just on the environment these days. You need to be able to also demonstrate those social and economic benefits in order to protect these places. We also think that it would be useful for early, positive and proactive advice to individual state parties on the conservation needs of their sites. We should ensure the functioning of ecosystems and explore transboundary cooperations. Many sites cross borders. We should look at the potential of corridors, interlinked habitat areas and the use of buffer zones for protection and for mitigation of threats. It would also be useful to start looking at areas beyond national jurisdiction and the values of World Heritage areas or World Heritage protection there. Implementation and guidance on conservation and management obligations would be useful, and also to start exploring the linkages to other multilateral environmental agreements such as the CBD and the HE targets. Finally, and most importantly, it's important that we ensure the means of implementation so that we actually have the capacity and resources to protect World Heritage sites for transmission to future generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, madam, for your comments. Now I invite Germany to take the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, WWF, for your valuable intervention. And we really appreciate NGOs taking the floor here and also your work outside of this room to help to preserve these sites worldwide. I would like just to mention a very short point on this issue of benefits. Where we fully agree that benefits of World Heritage should be demonstrated to a wider audience, that it's essential to grant support, to gain wider support for these sites. And Germany is very happy to announce that from now on we'll be supporting IUCN in a specific project in this regard to explore in more detail the benefits of natural World Heritage sites worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Madam. If we have more comments on this item, I see none. Perú. Veo al Perú, por favor, señor embajador.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Es la primera intervención de mi delegación y queremos sumarnos a los agradecimientos al gobierno de Camboya por la preparación de este evento. Quería ser muy breve y referirme a la discusión sobre las listas indicativas en la reunión que convocó la directora general en octubre del año pasado. En principio, la posibilidad de asociar a los órganos asesores a la elaboración de la lista indicativa es una cuestión que tiene una serie de elementos positivos en términos de preservar que los procesos reflejen adecuadamente el valor universal de los bienes. Sin embargo, este es un asunto que se ha iniciado en la discusión. Debemos recordar que la elaboración de las listas indicativas conforme a la Convención son competencias de los Estados partes. Creemos que estas competencias no deberían debilitarse en ningún caso y pensamos que en su conjunto las conclusiones que se presentan en el documento anexo son una primera aproximación a este y a los demás temas que se discutieron en octubre. Creemos que, dada la importancia de estos temas, debería seguir discutiéndose con una mayor participación de los Estados partes y que se trata de un proceso complejo en el que debemos evaluar de una manera muy precisa cuál sería el futuro del procedimiento para elaborar las listas indicativas, fortaleciendo las competencias que en esta materia la Convención otorga a las partes. Gracias, señor presidente.
Muchas gracias a usted, señor embajador. May now invite other committee members or observers for further comments on this issue. If not, I would like to invite Mr. Rao to present additional comments. Please, Mr. Rao, take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank the members of the committee and observers who have made comments on this particular document. This is indeed a very significant document, the initiative taken by the Director General, and we definitely need to monitor very closely the implementation of all the agreements that have been reached in that particular meeting. There were a number of comments that have been made, Mr. President. Some of them are in the nature of suggestions, not questions, so there is nothing by way of a response that perhaps I need to give. there were some suggestions, and for example, India mentioned about involving state parties in the meetings of the ABs. Now, I just want to clarify that the Secretariat and the ABs have biannual meetings twice a year, essentially to look at the decisions that the committee adopted and to share the work between us as to how we are going to implement those decisions and what reports we have to prepare. This is a working meeting. I don't think involving states parties in that process is essential. However, involving states parties in discussions with the advisory bodies and the Secretariat is a good thing, but that is not the forum. We can have separate meetings for that purpose. How we go about the logistics of organizing these consultations once or twice a year is again for the committee to consider, because there are resource implications on that issue. We have absolutely no point in convening as many meetings as the committee wishes, provided the resources and the time is available to do so. In terms of issue-based interactions, I think the thematic meetings, expert meetings that are organized on, I just read out the Secretariat's report on urban architecture, on the visual impact of development projects, on the involvement of indigenous peoples. These are issue-based interactions. Again, there are resource constraints, but when they are hosted, these meetings, they are open for states parties to participate within the limits of the resources that are available. So I don't think there is any hesitation or lack of effort from the Secretariat to convene and organize these kinds of meetings. There is a often used terminology of transparency, lack of transparency and accountability. And it's very difficult for us to understand what exactly that means, because the Secretariat implements the regulations, the operational guidelines, and the rules of procedures that the committee itself has established. We follow them. If you want these to be changed, it is the committee's sovereign decision to do so. But as far as there are rules which require us to function in a certain manner, we act according to those rules. But there is no question of us being secretive or non-transparent or shirking our accountability. We are there, open, available for states parties to consult us, and they do. I don't think there are any problems on that account of being approachable or receiving responses to questions or clarifications. So if there is more precision on precise procedures that we should be following, please establish them in the rules of procedure and the operational guidelines, and we'd be more than happy to follow them. Mr. President, there were also a number of comments on tentative lists. The last comment made by Peru, I think there was a bit of a misunderstanding perhaps in the intent of what was agreed on in the meeting on the 2nd. It's not as though the tentative lists will now be written only by the advisory bodies. Tentative lists, like nominations, is the prerogative of the states parties. There was the suggestion that states parties need to be provided guidance and support by the advisory bodies in ensuring that there is potential for some of these sites to meet the criteria and demonstrate outstanding universal value. So advisory bodies are available to be able to contribute to your effort, and only if you so desire. If you don't, there is no requirement that you have to involve the advisory bodies. Comments made on demonstrating the social and economic benefits of World Heritage Sites, absolutely, there is no question. We had, in fact, if you remember, brought out a publication with Cambridge University Press for the 40th anniversary last year titled Benefits Beyond Borders, which includes 26 case studies from around the world, precisely showing what benefits these World Heritage Sites bring to local communities and to local and regional economies. I know that several states parties have also carried out studies. Australia carried out a very interesting study a few years ago. The United Kingdom has done. The United States have done. These are some of the studies that we are aware of in which the economic, social, and environmental benefits of World Heritage sites have been analyzed and published. Of course, there is a need for many more such studies to be carried out. Mr. President, I think I have touched upon the various comments that have been made. The remaining are by way of suggestions. There were a few comments made in relation to the advisory bodies, and perhaps you may wish to give them the floor as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rao. And of course, I would like to listen to the advisory body's remarks. But before I see the representative of India who wishes to take the floor, please, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you, Chair. I did hope that the advisory bodies would respond or be given the opportunity to respond to the suggestions, and I'm glad it's being done now. Dialogue is not just about meetings. It's also a state of mind. If you feel there is no problem, then there is a problem. And I think this has been expressed on the floor. It's been expressed at St. Petersburg. That is precisely why the Director General took that wonderful step. So it is not just about we have done enough. Obviously, you have not done enough. If you had, we wouldn't be discussing it. We wouldn't need to discuss it. Let me also add that the September meeting that the advisory bodies have, it is not that states parties need to participate in that meeting. It's a platform. It's an opportunity. And I'd welcome at least the advisory body that is hosting it this year, which is IUCN, to take the floor and tell us if it's possible to organize a small interaction between member states. You have to look for the opportunities. You have to create it. I would feel that there is definitely a problem. And if you talk of transparency, let me tell you that when reactive monitoring missions go, the World Heritage Center must file, their representative must file an independent report. You cannot have a situation where the advisory bodies and the World Heritage Center feel. There has to be a way in which that is done. And that is how professionalism comes. There are other instances. There are always ways to improve. And I think the time has come to take those steps. So if you feel there is no problem, then I think there is a problem. If there is a problem, I think we should look at ways of addressing it. I'd welcome the advisory bodies to take the floor. This is a theme that will recur through this meeting. At the January meeting, it was excellent. It was wonderful. But the senior management of the culture sector and the World Heritage Center left in 4 minutes. The legal advisor left in 6, which is not a bad thing, actually. But you need to participate. And that's the point. You need to use every opportunity that you get to go for this dialogue. That's the point, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for your very important remarks. And now I would like to give the floor to the advisory bodies, maybe the representative of IUCN first.
Well, thank you, Chair. There were some questions, so I'll just try to address the points that have been raised and elaborate further. I think, firstly, for IUCN, we see the meeting in last October and the documentation of its results as extremely important. Within the organisation, we're currently just finalising what will be a management response to that, so there are some recommendations, and we think we should indicate IUCN's position in relation to them as a transparent response to the points raised. So that we hope will be available at some stage later this week. In terms of the different points that are raised, so firstly, in terms of dialogue, we would agree that the process has started, but we need to find lots of different ways in which that can proceed. It's already been mentioned that we do have space here at the committee to allow for some of that dialogue. We do have an advisory bodies pavilion, as we could dub it, which is in room 4 on the 4th floor. And on every one of the lunch times for an hour and a half, we'll be running various events, which will include later in the meeting an open forum to allow for issues to be raised, but a number of specific events on different aspects of our work. So we hope that space will be used. And please do come and visit us there. On the specific point of the advisory body meeting, as it's called, which we'll host in September, perhaps not in that meeting, but if it was wished to organise a meeting at IUCN, we have the facilities to do that. What I think as an advisory body we can't do if it's an engagement with states parties is make the decision about how that would happen. I think that the question of how states parties in a small group would come to a meeting like that must be a matter between the parties, and I don't think we could pick and choose for ourselves who should be invited. So that would be the question we would put back, but from a there would be no difficulty to organise perhaps a separate meeting to the advisory bodies meeting if that was what the wish of this committee was, and if it was resourced. And I think that would be a question for the Secretariat to work on with the parties. On the other matters that are raised, I think on tentative lists, clearly we don't wish to take any role which the states parties are not comfortable with. It is an advisory role we provide, so anything we should do should be at the invitation of states parties. But I think we do need to find the operational ways to support states. So it's good to talk about the idea of engaging in tentative lists, but how do we do that? One means is to provide better ways to operationalise our thematic studies. So we acknowledge the support of Germany with a thematic study that will launch at this meeting, and also Australia for a thematic study on Criterion 7, also to be launched at this meeting, and Switzerland, as mentioned in the advisory bodies presentation, that have supported capacity building in our networks. So that's one area. How do we make that operational? And also the model that the African World Heritage Fund has been deploying in support of nominations in Africa, which is starting to show results. These are operational questions, but how else can we see concretely how we support tentative lists, not just the idea of doing that, but some models for how it works. And the last comment, just to thank Germany for their announcement on the study of benefits. I think it's a general consensus that whilst we are preoccupied by outstanding universal value, if we don't engage more largely in how World Heritage Sites contribute benefits to communities and to society, then we're missing a major part of the jigsaw. So we're very pleased that piece of work will move forward, but it has to be part of a larger effort to build that part of our thinking into the operationalisation of the convention. I hope I've picked up the main points. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much to the representative of IUCN. I'm sure that the committee members are taking good note of the comments. Now, may I invite the representative of ICOMOS to present its comments, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not quite sure of what we could add to what IUCN already said. It was quite eloquent, and a lot of what they said applies to ICOMOS, of course. I think I just want to reiterate a number of points. I think we really poured our heart out in the report that we produced for the Looking Forward meeting, and we tried to produce as many ideas that we thought could work effectively to improve the implementation of the convention, and also to eliminate something that we're very concerned about, which is the unnecessary expenditure of financial resources, the elevation of community expectations that always accompany nominations, and that are absolutely have a terrible impact once if ICOMOS or IUCN recommend against inscription. So we really would like to avoid this unnecessary and wasteful experiences by trying to figure out how we can move ahead together. Now, in saying all this, we have to underline that while the committee has a lot of freedom to do and undo and act in whichever way it feels is most appropriate, ICOMOS and the advisory bodies are really very tightly bound by the operational guidelines that you give us. These are the rules of the game that you give us, and it doesn't mean necessarily that we like them. it means simply that we have to abide by them. So in that respect, we reiterate what we said in Paris, that we would love to open a very frank, however brutal it may be, but we would welcome a very frank dialogue as to how we can make the convention a happier place, how we can make these committee meetings less belligerent and less confrontational, and how we can achieve the goal that we all want, which in the end is the conservation of the World Heritage properties and the recognition of all properties that have outstanding universal value. So I think we're all on the same page. It's just a matter of figuring out how we can get to the ends that we're all trying to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. May now invite the representative of ICRAM to present your comments. Please, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We would agree with most of the comments coming from IUCN and from ICOMOS, although I'm not sure that we really want brutal discussions, but having open discussions I think is certainly very useful. Just in terms of the substance of some of the suggestions, I would point out that the idea of opening dialogue with states parties at various points in time I think is a very good one. I'm not sure that the September meeting is necessarily the best time to do that, because sometimes that takes place in Paris, sometimes it takes place in Rome, and sometimes it takes place in Switzerland. So that may be a little bit more difficult to organize. But certainly the advisory body meeting in January is always in Paris, and there are certainly other opportunities throughout the year where the advisory bodies are in Paris for different meetings, for information meetings, for other reasons, and there's no reason why we couldn't organize a sort of a side meeting to those moments when we're in Paris to talk about a specific theme. We could talk about tentative lists at one point in time. We could talk about nominations at one point in time, etc. I mean, that's something that I think we could theoretically work out some sort of a schedule. I think this would need to be an ongoing process, and so we could sort of divide those meetings up into various topics as we go along. In relation to tentative lists and nominations, again, that's not necessarily specifically ICRAM's area where we're working, but we do want to point out that the convention itself is about international cooperation, and that's one of the reasons that we strongly endorse the Africa World Heritage Fund model, which is bringing together states parties from the region to look at the tentative list and especially look at nominations. And it's an ongoing process. It's not one small workshop that then disbands and people go away. It's actually it's actually an ongoing process with more than one regional encounter, with mentoring processes that go on in between, and I think that's a model that might be useful for different regions of the world to explore, doing it on a regional or at least a sub-regional basis, let's say. So in any event, we look forward to continued dialogue, and I think it's really just a question of working out the logistics and figuring out exactly when and exactly what topics we're going to be talking about at any given time. But we certainly look forward to that continued dialogue with states parties. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your comments. Now I invite Mr. Van der Een to present your comments.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I just wanted to offer a comment because, of course, the intention of the Director General and all the management of UNESCO and the Secretariat is to create the best conditions for the advancement of the Convention. So I think that this has been demonstrated by the opening of meetings that we had last year, and we will continue having it. I don't think we're saying that there is no problem. I would like to gently, comment on that, because it's obviously that there is a discussion ongoing. Maybe there are no problems, but there is a discussion on procedures, on methodologies, on processes that have to do with a complex system, the one that has been established around many years around the Convention. We see them very clearly in the meetings of the committee and during the year. Some of them are easy to address because they're made up of, essentially a formalization of goodwill or whatever. Others have to do with the change that we have to bring into the system. Now, I think you have a working group on this. Operation Guidelines is the territory for this kind of innovation, exchanges. It will be a continuous process. So I would like to say that we're completely open to any discussion. I think the DG has demonstrated that, and we will continue. If there is a need to have more clarifications, more, say, information meetings, more moments in which this can be done, we will do it. And of course, anything that comes from the World Heritage Committee's decisions through the working group on the operation guidelines to your decision will be duly taken on board. This is our system. This is a service to the member states. So there is no, I don't see any opposition, if I can say. It's just a matter of fine-tuning the engine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Banderin. Do we have additional comments on this item after listening to the comments of committee members and the representative of the advisory bodies? If not, dear colleagues, I would like now to invite you to take a look on the document and the draft decision 37.5c. If we all agree with this document, we can adopt it. I was informed that it was an amendment that was sent directly to the rapporteur, so may now invite the rapporteur to explain us this. Please, Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to say that it was we received amendment by India concerning the paragraph 5 and 6, although it was not introduced by the state party orally before we received. So you have amendment on the screen. If you want, I can read it.
Thank you very much, Madam. Maybe invite the distinguished delegate of India to explain us your
Thank you, Chair. Actually, this reflects the discussion over the last 10 minutes. And all it does is ask the World Heritage Center to prepare and implement over the next year a plan to encourage and enhance this dialogue. There is site-specific dialogue, which countries, member states are worried about, which may be nominations or inscriptions. There is issue-based dialogue, which is on processes and procedures. So how will you do that? And let the World Heritage Center prepare that. The second part is, having prepared and implemented it, please report to the next meeting of the committee on what you have done, how you have done it, what are the outcomes and results. That's all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for your explanations. So please now, dear colleagues, I invite you to take a look on the amendment presented by the delegation of India. If you have further comments on this. May then... Germany, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, India, for the proposal. As far as the proposal on paragraph 5 is concerned, I have a certain difficulty in understanding how the center should plan and implement something between the advisory bodies and the member states, which I have a certain difficulty in seeing how this can be done in first of all in only 1 year, and how what the role of the advisory bodies is in this process, and the role of the member states. So maybe we can take a bit of discussion on this, and maybe we can hear the center how this can be done in 1 year, and we can hear the center and the advisory bodies on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. India, Russia, please, Madam Ambassador, you have the floor.
Уважаемые коллеги, тоже разрешите от имени Российской Федерации поблагодарить наших камбоджийских коллег за замечательный прием, за гостеприимство. и за замечательные условия работы. Уважаемые коллеги, мы на протяжении уже многих сессий говорим о том, что мы хотим более прозрачных, более ясных и тесных отношений с консультативными органами. Но у нас есть Центр всемирного наследия, который действительно должен способствовать этому процессу, как нам представляется, поскольку он как раз находится в середине между странами-членами, консультативными органами. И это как бы, насколько я понимаю, это как бы начало пути. Давайте попробуем. Мы все время говорим об этой транспарентности. Давайте попробуем. Пускай Центр всемирного наследия наиболее сложные случаи возьмет и предложит, как это сделать, как провести эти консультации. А дальше мы на следующей сессии посмотрим, что из этого вышло. Не надо гнаться за количеством, а надо взять просто несколько случаев, как, так сказать, пилотный проект. Спасибо.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador. Do we have further comments? Maybe the Indian delegation would like to take the floor?
No, Chair, I just, since the question was asked, you're right. I've often wondered how you do things in 1 year, like prepare state of conservation reports in 1 year and discuss them in the next. I agree. But dialogue is an ongoing process. We're not saying you will complete everything in 1 year. Please start. Let's review it after a year, and you will need to continue and continue and continue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Je vois la France, Madame, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Non pas sur le fond, mais sur la forme, je voulais simplement vous indiquer que nous sommes à la disposition du secrétariat pour améliorer la formulation en français des amendements qui ont été proposés. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Madame. Bien sûr, nous comptons sur toi. I can see Estonia wishes to take the floor. Estonia, then Switzerland.
Thank you very much. We think that if a World Heritage Center were to prepare and also implement a plan that really is about a dialogue between states parties and advisory bodies, maybe this is not the best possibility. And I think it's important, as the original proposal says, to encourage really all parties in this process. That means the center, the advisory bodies and the states parties to be involved in this work and to continue the efforts that have already been made. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. Now I invite the representative of Switzerland, please, to take the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Acceptez que je commence moi aussi à remercier les autorités cambodgiennes pour l'accueil qu'elles nous ont réservé maintenant et l'accueil à venir. Monsieur le Président, j'interviens spontanément sur la proposition du délégué indien parce que je ne vois pas d'opposition fondamentale entre le texte qui a été barré et le texte qui est proposé. À la suite de la déléguée de l'Estonie, je pense que ce qui est barré ne devrait pas l'être et devrait continuer à constituer le cadre de référence global de l'interaction générale entre tous les États parties et que la proposition en bleu pourrait venir la compléter en quelque sorte, mais certainement pas la remplacer. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le représentant. Maintenant, j'ai envie de le représentant du Qatar.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. نتناول الكلمة للمرة الثانية هذا الصباح ونود ابتداء أن نشكر الحكومة الكمبودية على حسن الاستقبال والضيافة. أما فيما يتعلق بهذا النقاش فنعتقد بأن الجميع متفق على الحوار، ولكن نظن ونعتقد بأن ممثل الهند يطرح صيغة عملية لطريقة الحوار ولطريقة النقاش خلال السنة القادمة. فنعتقد بأن هذا المقترح لكونه يصب في الناحية العملية لطريقة النقاش نقترح أنه مقترح جيد. شكرا.
Merci beaucoup. Je vois le Sénégal, s'il vous plaît, monsieur.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Nous pensons que dans le système que nous avons, il y a un opérateur stratégique dans la mise en œuvre de la Convention, qui est le centre. Il faut vraiment faire de telle sorte qu'il puisse être l'interface, le point où toutes les synergies se rencontrent. De ce point de vue-là, nous pensons qu'il serait peut-être intéressant d'expérimenter la proposition qui a été faite par nos amis indiens. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur. Ahora invito al representante de Colombia a tomar la palabra, por favor.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. En primer lugar, quisiéramos también agradecer al Reino de Camboya por la amabilidad, la hospitalidad y la generosidad con que nos alberga en este hermoso país. Me parece que hay nos parece que hay un punto de duda muy grande respecto a la transparencia en la redacción que se hace, y se hace tácitamente una acusación al Centro del Patrimonio Mundial que no nos parece conveniente. Creemos que cuando se habla de mejorar la transparencia, está quedando ese fondo de duda respecto a si el Centro del Patrimonio Mundial es transparente o no en su labor.
Muchas gracias por sus comentarios. Je vois l'Algérie, s'il vous plaît, madame.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je ne parlerai pas de la forme dont est rédigé ce point 5, mais je voudrais parler du fond. Il est certain que le Centre du patrimoine mondial a des attributions et des prérogatives. Et il ne manque pas de faire dans la transparence la plupart du temps, et ce n'est pas un reproche que nous faisons. Mais il y a une réalité qui est celle du dialogue. De dialoguer, les organes consultatifs sont par essence libres et indépendants. Un État dialogue avec son représentant qui est le Centre du patrimoine mondial. Donc c'est à l'intérieur du Centre du patrimoine mondial qu'il faut trouver la solution de mettre en place un mécanisme, une organisation qui puisse permettre aux États de dialoguer quand ils le veulent sur des sujets qui les intéressent. Bien sûr, il y a les groupes de travail, mais c'est des groupes qui se réunissent une fois l'an ou 2 fois l'an et qui posent des problèmes de ressources actuellement. Donc nous sommes d'accord sur le principe tel qu'il est dit, tel qu'il est énoncé par l'Inde. Et je pense qu'il y a une différence entre la première rédaction et la deuxième, c'est que la rédaction actuelle propose du concret. Mettons en place, s'il y a besoin de l'aide de certains États, mettons en place au niveau du Centre du patrimoine mondial un espace de dialogue entre les organisations consultatives, mais par le biais du Centre du patrimoine mondial. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Merci beaucoup, Madame, pour votre commentaire. Maintenant, j'invite la Russie à prendre la parole. Madame.
Спасибо большое, что вы мне второй раз дали слово. Уважаемые коллеги, мне кажется, что тут нет абсолютно противоречия между тем, что было предложено, и что предложено Индией. И мне бы казалось, что если говорить о проекте решения, то можно было бы оставить и часть, которую предложила Эстония и Швейцария, поскольку это звучит более общее о том, что нужна транспарентность, нужно усиление диалога в целом. А второе – это действительно некие конкретные шаги, с которых мы бы могли начать. А через год посмотреть, что из этого вышло, работает ли это или как-то по-другому это должно работать. Это, как, еще раз говорю, пилотный проект. Спасибо.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador. Maintenant, j'invite le représentant du Mali à prendre la parole.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président, moi je pense que le dialogue existe déjà. On parle d'établir un dialogue, le dialogue existe. Le dialogue existe entre le Centre du patrimoine mondial, les États partis et les organes consultatifs. Il s'agit maintenant de l'améliorer. Au niveau du comité du patrimoine mondial, nous sommes l'aile politique de la mise en œuvre de la Convention. Les organes consultatifs, comme quelqu'un l'a si bien dit ici, s'inspirent essentiellement d'outils pratiques tels que les orientations. Et il nous faut, nous, membres du comité, maîtriser ces outils-là. Donc, la première démarche consiste, si vous voulez, à maintenir dans le plan prévu ce renforcement des capacités dont je parlais tantôt des membres du comité. C'est extrêmement important. Et je pense que l'autre rôle fondamental doit être continué à être joué par le Centre du patrimoine mondial, qui joue ce rôle d'interface entre les États partis et les organes consultatifs. Sinon, le dialogue, il est là, il existe, mais il s'agit de l'approfondir. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur. Maintenant, j'ai envie le représentant d'Irak à prendre la parole, s'il vous plaît.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. في البداية نشكر الحكومة الكمبودية على حسن الضيافة وكرم الاستقبال، ونؤيد الاقتراح الهند على اقتراح أن يكون الحوار هادف وبناء بين الدول الأعضاء ومركز التراث العالمي، فالصياغة الهندية نراها أكثر فعالية من بقية الصياغات. شكرا جزيلا.
Thank you very much for your comments. I see Estonia again asking for the floor. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. We think that perhaps one solution could also be that, as we have established the dialogue that has been going on, that we keep new 6th paragraph, and we learn at the next meeting about this process and the achievements that we have had. But maybe the proposal proposed under paragraph 5 by India is a little too specific, because if World Heritage Center were really to implement a plan that maybe the advisory bodies and the states parties don't think that it is useful, then it's not a very wise way forward, because really the site-specific dialogue between advisory bodies and member states, it's a matter between those two. Thank you.
Thank you very much, madam. Do we have... Yes, apparently translation was interrupted, so...
Interpretation is not working.
It's okay now?
No, but nobody is speaking.
It's okay now? It's working? Please, interpreters, I would like to know. Is the Russian, Spanish, Arabic interpretation working? Not yet. So please, we will have to wait just 1 minute while we solve this problem.
Ask the people to see whether they are getting interpreted.
Okay, so...
Don't speak to the interpreters. You speak to the committee members and ask them whether they are getting in different languages.
Okay, so now I address again to the committee members to know if they have the interpretation. Is it working? Not yet. Well, apparently we have an electrical problem in the cabin, so we won't have the chance, not even to get the French interpretation, which is blocking us to keep working in French or English, our working languages. So we still have to wait. Well, apparently it's working now. So my address again to the committee members. It's okay? Okay, so now I would like to come back again to Estonia. Please, sir, if you can repeat your comments, because actually while you were speaking we had this electricity cut, so I would like to listen to you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We were proposing that perhaps one solution would be also to keep the new paragraph 6 as was proposed by India. That would mean that we get to know at the next committee meeting the progress about this issue. But as the original paragraph 5, we prefer to keep it as it was, because we feel that the new proposal maybe is too specific. And we also think that a proposal to really prepare such a plan and moreover to implement a plan that is really an issue between advisory bodies and member states might cause some problems, because perhaps advisory bodies and member states, for instance, do not agree with this plan that has already been implemented by the proposal. And really also we would like to underline that the site-specific dialogue is between advisory bodies and member states. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam, for your comments. And now I invite the representative of Malaysia to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We have heard several combinations of 5 and 6. Malaysia would like to suggest that we keep 5, but we modify it. Request the World Heritage Center to prepare a plan to further encourage dialogue and transparency, to further enhance and facilitate dialogue, communication, and transparency, and report on this at the 38th session of the World Heritage Committee. So it's a combination of the three, without going into the details. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Madam. India, please.
Thank you. And I think the point has been made that something needs to be done. It's for the World Heritage Center to rise to the occasion and prepare a report which they would give to the next committee. Insofar as the content of the resolution is concerned, frankly, it doesn't mean or require that much. I think the suggestion of the Russian Federation is a good one. Try it. I think the specificity which is there in 5 and 6 is to help you think it out. The general point made by Estonia is also valid. At the end of the day, I think we should come together, and Malaysia has a good suggestion. But at the end of the day, the message to the World Heritage Center is something needs to be done, and you need to tell us about it the next time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Now I give the floor to the representative of Japan, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is my first intervention, so I'd like to express our gratitude to the government of Cambodia for kindly hosting this meeting. Okay. As for this issue, Japanese delegation would like to support proposal by the Malaysia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Now I invite South Africa to take the floor, please.
Thank you, Chair. We've had the various suggestions that have been made. I think we still need to give a chance, just give a chance, as the delegate of India has mentioned, to his proposal. Maybe the combination of the two, as has been suggested, that we keep the first one, but I think the second one should still remain as it was in the beginning, and let's give it a chance. If there are problems with it, then it would be reviewed in the next year. But if we remove it completely from now, we do not know how it will come again. Let's try and have a way of starting now to see how it works. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam. Do we have additional comments on this item? Je vois le Samira Zarab. S'il vous plaît, monsieur, vous avez la parole.
شكرا السيد الرئيس. أنا أعتقد أن إيضاحات الهند الأخيرة تتفق مع ما تم اقتراحها من استونيا وروسيا وماليزيا وأخيرا. لذلك نحن في حالة توافق، يعني فقط نريد الخروج إلى نحن نعتقد أن الحفاظ على 5 و6 بصياغة أخيرة تأخذ بالاعتبار المداخلات التي تفضلت بها الوفود سيقودنا إلى توافق على هذا الأمر يعني. وفقط أود أن أعلق على ما طرحته الزميلة من استونيا بخصوص مركز التراث العالمي. نحن نعتقد أن هي محقة بأن الأمر يخص الدول الأعضاء والجهات الاستشارية، لكن مركز التراث العالمي مهمة تفاصيلات، يعني أن يقدم هذه الخدمة للدول الأعضاء والجهات الاستشارية، وهو لا يقرر ولكنه شريك أيضا في هذا العمل الذي نقوم به. شكرا.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur. Et maintenant, j'invite la Suisse à prendre la parole, s'il vous plaît, monsieur.
Merci, monsieur le président. Puis-je vous demander si la proposition qui était présentée par notre collègue de Malaisie pourrait être reproduite sur les écrans, parce qu'elle me semblait être digne d'intérêt. Je vous remercie.
Oui, merci beaucoup, monsieur l'ambassadeur. Donc, j'invite aux représentants de Malaisie, s'il vous plaît, si vous pouvez juste répéter votre proposition afin que le secrétariat, nos collègues de secrétariat puissent prendre note.
She sent it in writing, so it's okay.
Ah, okay. I was informed we already have it in writing, so we will ask our colleagues to put it on the screen. What? Well, thank you. Anyhow, I would like just to invite the representative of Malaysia to explain us their remarks, because the colleagues of the Secretary, they would like to take note in order that it will be very well reflected. So, Madam, please, if you can repeat your proposals on the text.
Thank you very much, President, but I need to see the draft resolution. I did not write it down. Okay. Request the World Heritage Center to prepare a plan to encourage and to further enhance and facilitate could I see number 5, please? Further enhance and facilitate dialogue, communication, and transparency in all processes of the Convention, and report to the 38th session of the World Heritage Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Please, colleagues of the Secretary, I would like to take note of this. Maintenant, j'ai envie de la représentante de l'Algérie, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Toujours dans le même esprit, mais peut-être en plus abrégé, nous proposons la rédaction suivante. Demande au Centre du patrimoine mondial d'engager au cours de l'année une démarche favorisant le dialogue et la communication dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre des mécanismes de la Convention. Le mot transparence n'y est pas parce que nous considérons que le dialogue et la communication sont les fondements de la transparence. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Merci beaucoup, Madame.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Président. Je reprenais la parole pour suggérer ma compréhension de ce qui apparaît maintenant comme le point 7. Je ne le voyais pas comme point 7, mais comme remplacement de la deuxième partie du point 5 qui nous était soumise au départ. Ce à quoi je souscris. Et je tiens à ajouter que, par ailleurs, je souscris également à la proposition alternative, mais de peu, de la déléguée de l'Algérie. Je rappelle dans ce contexte que notre collègue et distingué représentant de l'Inde nous avait fait savoir, lors de sa dernière intervention, que the wording itself was not to be much of a problem, in as much as his concerns have been taken care of. I thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur. Vous avez raison. Donc, maintenant, je passe la parole à la Fédération de Russie. Madame, s'il vous plaît.
Уважаемые коллеги, ну вот мы сейчас занимаемся такой литературной работой. Это, конечно, важная для дипломатов работа, безусловно. Вот. Но думаю, что мы все понимаем, о чем мы говорим. И мне бы хотелось, прежде чем мы примем окончательное решение, попросить Центр всемирного наследия немножечко прокомментировать, как они видят вот эту свою работу, с чего бы они начали эту работу. Потому что для нас, для стран-членов, так же, как и для консультативных органов, конечно, Комитет всемирного наследия – это такой ключевая организация, куда мы идем со всеми нашими проблемами, вопросами и так далее. Поэтому это логично, что мы просим вас взять этот процесс в свои руки. Спасибо.
Thank you very much, Madam. So, are we taking good note of the amendments and the observations of the Member States and Secretariat?
She wants me to.
Okay, so now I would like to invite Mr. Rao to reply to this question.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think the intent is very clear. The committee would like us to present to you a plan on how we facilitate, enhance, encourage dialogue and communication between the states parties and the advisory bodies. We can certainly make an attempt. Clearly, in my presentation of the document, I may have not been very clear in my communication skills, but never did I say that there is no problem. We said there are several opportunities during the year when this can happen, or if you want special opportunities to be created, we can certainly create them. There are financial and time constraints which have to be taken into account. Every time you want the advisory bodies involved, there is travel and their time cost involved. But taking all that into account, we will certainly put together a plan to show what are the opportunities that come up whenever there are meetings that are already scheduled, when there are visits by the advisory bodies to Paris available, or visits by advisory bodies to different states parties on missions, etc., that are available. We can document all that into an annual plan and communicate it to the states parties. That is our understanding of the intent at the moment, but certainly once this decision is adopted, we will have a dialogue with the states parties also to better understand what the specific needs are, and we can prepare a plan accordingly. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rao. So I think now we can maybe ask the rapporteur to read out the amendments as they have been presented. So please, Madam, proceed.
I'm sorry, we don't have all of them yet here. Okay. Encourages all parties concerned to further enhance and facilitate dialogue, communication, and transparency in all processes of the Convention, and report to the 38th session of the World Heritage Committee. Requests the World Heritage Center to initiate over the next year and implement a plan to encourage and enhance both issue-based interactions and site-specific dialogue between the advisory bodies and member states. Requests the World Heritage Center to present the actions taken and progress achieved on measures to improve transparency and accountability in the various processes of... Can you please put the screen up? And we have a second option, which is under number 6 now, but it's not number 6, it's just a second option. Requests the World Heritage Center to present the actions taken and progress achieved on measures to improve transparency and accountability in the various processes of the Convention of the 38th session of the World Heritage Committee. So the members, most of the members agreed upon previous, what I read before, and this is the second option that I just read. So you have to say which one you prefer. For the moment, we have more members that agreed upon one first.
Thank you, Madam. Now, j'invite la représentante de l'Algérie, s'il vous plaît.
Je voudrais juste reprendre ce que l'Algérie vient de proposer. Alors, demande au Centre du patrimoine mondial, du patrimoine mondial d'engager au cours de l'année une démarche favorisant le dialogue et la communication dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre des mécanismes de la Convention. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Madame. Malaysia, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Malaysia's suggestion is not there. What we said was to request the World Heritage Centre to prepare a plan and then join it up with the original. Request the World Heritage Centre to prepare a plan to further enhance and facilitate dialogue communication and present it to the 38th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Are our colleagues of Secretariat taking note of these remarks? So just give 1 minute while they take note of this, please. The rapporteur wants to present some clarifications, please, Madam.
S'il vous plaît, si on réduit l'écran pour voir la totalité des propositions, on n'aura pas, on verra rien parce que ça sera trop petit. Donc, on va vous proposer, je vais lire lentement toutes les propositions jusqu'à présent et vous allez après décider laquelle vous convient le mieux. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Madame. Mais avant de faire ça, j'aimerais bien savoir si le représentant du Japon souhaiterait présenter aussi des amendements sur le texte. Monsieur l'ambassadeur, vous avez la parole.
Just, we'd like to want to keep Malaysian version on the screen. And also, Japan is supporting Malaysian version. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. So please, the colleagues of Secretariat, if they could reflect it properly. Okay, so now I would like to give the floor to the rapporteur to explain us what happened.
I'm sorry to make you wait, but we are receiving all the time different proposals, and now one more. So we have to combine them all. Sorry, just if you can be patient a little bit more. Thank you.
Dear colleagues, since the rapporteur and the colleagues of secretary, they are still taking note of this, and just in order to well reflect the amendments and the proposals of the different delegations, I would just like to propose to break now for lunch, since it is 12:20 now, and we will resume at 2:30 again, and we will come up with the final proposals reflected on the text, so we can adopt this decision. And before leaving the room, I would like to pass the floor to Secretariat because they have some announcements. Please, Madam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just to announce, there is the roundtable of the African Ministers of Culture, which starts at 1:15 to 2:30 in room Romdul, which is the opening ceremony room on the first floor. And the second information, there is the launching of the Philippines exhibition in room 1 and 2 and the West Foyer, which is on the fourth floor. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. So now I invite you to break for lunch, and we will resume at 2:30 for continuing on this discussion. Thank you very much.